Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate that. And I hope that my having to be in two places at once does not indicate my lack of interest in this important topic. We're also working on child nutrition in another committee. So thank you so much to the witnesses for being here today. Climate change is an important issue to my constituents in Northwest Oregon, and whether I'm talking about people who live on the coast who rely on a healthy ocean, or growers of our famous Pinot grapes in Yamhill County, or entrepreneurs who are developing new clean energy technologies. There are many people who are working to address and mitigate the impacts of climate change in my state of Oregon. Now, there have been several statements here about how reducing carbon emission has costs, but we should also consider the costs of inaction. We have shellfish growers on our coast, and many of them have spoken with me about the significant losses because of ocean acidification. Oyster production is an $84 million industry on the West Coast and supports more than 3,000 jobs in my state. Ocean acidification is threatening this industry, as well as those in the Gulf of Mexico, New England, Mid-Atlantic. And this just doesn't matter to coastal representatives. It's important to restaurants and grocery stores and people who eat shellfish across the country. Now, later today, I'm going to have an opportunity to visit with some of the Oregonians who grow wine grapes in my district. And I want to mention that the wine economy in Oregon is valued at more than $3 billion and supports more than 17,000 jobs. Wine grapes are especially vulnerable to temperature extremes. Excess heat can raise the sugar level of grapes, for example, which, along with drought, threatens this important industry. So, Mr. Schmidt, you discussed in your testimony some of the increased costs associated with climate change. Do you agree that if we continue to do little or nothing, these costs will continue to rise? And can you talk just a little bit about the terms of lost jobs, for example, in areas like agriculture, if we refuse to act? And I do want to have time for another question as well.
Well, thank you. I'll keep it brief then. I think it is true. When you think about the impacts that have come from climate change, they are at the sort of fundamental components of the American economy. How often does it rain? When does it rain? How much temperature variability at certain points? And you're seeing some real-world examples of that in California, where they're suffering from a very severe droughts that are having a huge ripple effect across the entire economy and agriculture, and happy to share with you some of our analysis of ocean acidification, which shows devastating impacts potentially across the entire fishing economy of the U.S., which is significant, as you know.
Thank you. And yes, we also have outdoor recreation activities that have been seriously hampered this year because no snowpack. So in taking a leadership role to address climate change, the United States has an opportunity to further spur innovation and development of sustainable technologies. And Dr. Thornburg, thank you for mentioning the states that have renewable energy portfolios. I was actually in the Oregon legislature when we passed the legislation, and I'm proud to have supported that, to require that the state's largest utilities derive 25% of their 2025 sales from renewable sources. We have a significant amount of hydropower as well in Oregon, and one way that our state is working to meet this benchmark is to be a leader in areas like wind energy. We're involved in generation, manufacturing, and the industry employs more than 1,000 Oregonians. We've also made a strategic decision to become an international leader in the development of wave energy technology, and we've partnered with the government on some research in that area. So, Mr. Schmidt, you've established that we're already paying significant costs driven by climate change. Can you talk about how the UN Framework Convention will positively impact our domestic clean energy sector and innovation and economy nationwide?
Well, it'll have very significant positive impacts, we believe. What you're seeing in places like China and India is a massive expansion of wind and solar demand. India has a target to get to 100 gigawatts of solar by 2022. And I was just there in February, and I can tell you that there's a huge amount of attention and focus on delivering that. They have lots of sun. They have 300 days of sun, some of the best sun in the world. They also have significant wind potential. China does as well, despite this perception that China is not going to do anything for 16 years under this new commitment. That's just not true. They are building a massive amount of wind and solar. And so what you see happening is that the more that these clean energy markets are growing internationally, that American companies are tapping into this. And this is a key component when we talk to entrepreneurs. They see this huge sort of market potential both within the U.S. and externally. So the products that they build to meet standards and regulations in the U.S. now become the kinds of technologies that they can export around the world and tap into those opportunities.
Well, thank you very much. I see my time has expired, and I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.